Okay, so I want to start this evening with this webinar. Um, Again, as I did last month, talking about the implications of the COVID-19 disease, the coronavirus pandemic that we've been facing. Um, First thing I want to do is offer some reassurance. I know many of you have been very serious about avoiding exposure to the disease by sheltering at home and taking care of yourself. Um, and That's certainly been a good thing. And I hope that everyone who has avoided catching the disease. And I certainly want to encourage you to continue to protect yourself and your community wherever you may be. This disease has not yet gone away. Things have kind of leveled off, which was what we had hoped would happen. And hopefully they'll start now into a decline. But with reopening, we're facing a number of feelings. Most of us have been rather isolated. Um, there may be economic pressures that we're feeling and a strong desire to just resume a normal life and not to let the stay at home, sheltering at home, become the new normal for us. Um, on the other hand, the risk has not yet gone away. And so we need to be very vigilant to continue to protect ourselves and to wear masks when we go out, to try to maintain at least a 6-foot distance, um, eh, particularly when we're indoors. That may be a little less important when we're outdoors if there's a breeze. But certainly, staying distant from other people is an important aspect of protecting ourselves and making sure that we don't spread the disease or catch the disease. Um, this may be frustrating. I think it's very tempting at this time to just want to be normal again. And I think I see that reflected in the local community when I go shopping at the larger facilities, the grocery store and such, that a lot of people are not wearing their masks. I was in one of the local grocery stores today, a commercial store, not the privately owned one here, and I was rather disappointed to find that most of the people working in the store had masks on their chins. They weren't covering either their, sometimes some of them were covering their mouth, but not their nose. And many of them were not covering either their mouth or their nose. And of course, that provides essentially no protection. Yes, it's uncomfortable wearing a mask for long periods of time, but lots of people are doing it who are in various, professional situations. And I was thinking of my daughter who spent 5 weeks working in a COVID-19 ICU with terribly sick patients. And, she wore a mask except when she was eating. And of course, she didn't eat where there were any patients around. That was done in a staff room. But everywhere else in the hospital, she wore a mask. And it's uncomfortable. You don't like doing it, but you can get used to it. And the point I'm trying to make really is you need to continue to appreciate the importance of protecting yourself and protecting your community. So tonight we're going to look, this is really a segue into what we're going to talk about tonight, which is why people adopt ideas and join groups that are, we might just say, simply alternative. And our topic tonight, clans, religions, cults, and conspiracies. Why some people embrace an alternative reality, join movements, and reject logic and science. And there are a lot of reasons for why that happens. My motivation for this has really been that I've had very personal contact with a number of people whom I've known for a long time, who are ardently and oftenly openly believing in alt facts and conspiracy theories, that don't even believe that there is a pandemic. Someone I know, a politician actually, just said, no one's died of the coronavirus, which is blatantly untrue. And so that kind of comment and that kind of position spread to other people through social media and whatever, mainstream media, even in this case. Um, it undermines what, as a society, we're trying to do in good faith. And so it destroys that good faith. It's damaging to society. And so I felt like, where are these people coming from? Why do they think that way? And what I discovered, the punchline of this whole webinar, is that the same things that motivate us to seek spiritual knowledge and to join a religious institution, to be participating in a church, are actually the same motivations which cause these people to accept alternative facts and an alternative reality, and to believe in conspiracy theories, many of which are just fallacious on the face of them. They're just make no sense at all. And so we're going to try to answer the question, why? Why do these otherwise sane people, and they are sane, why do they dismiss logic and science, dismiss sources of information that most of us consider mostly reliable? No media is completely reliable, and we have to think our way through all of these issues. But most of the mainstream media is mostly reliable. And I'm talking here about expert opinion and expert knowledge, people who are knowledgeable in these fields. And they embrace ideas and express and promote distrust and fear. Why are they doing that? I've looked into the feelings and needs that motivate people to reject logic and science, and discovered that they are the same feelings and needs as those that cause people to seek religious experience and spiritual fulfillment. So that's what we're all about tonight. The teacher of interrelationship focusing, a technique that I use a great deal in my work, Ann Weiser Cornell, says that it's a way to deal with uncertainty. It's scary to be uncertain. And we live in uncertain times. It's a very scary world right now. We have, on the one hand, a pandemic, and now we have this enormous societal reaction to police brutality and police murder. Change brings uncertainty, and there's a lot of reaction to the change that's taking place because it's very scary. So dealing with uncertainty is one of the great motivators for people to seek. Another is existential fear. Some people are just fearful, and that may have come from their experience in early childhood. It may have come from past life experiences. It may have come from traumas that have occurred in their lives, even as adults. But they hold fears of extinction, and these may be realistic in the sense that they may have had very realistic, very real experiences that were life-threatening, even an illness, that they might have died from, and then they pulled through. So our fears may be realistic, or they may be unrealistic, or lie, as they often do, almost always do, somewhere in between the two extremes. Dealing with thoughts of doom, thoughts of things will never work out, never end, or always be painful and unfulfilling. We cling to that which gives us hope, shelters us, protects us, and which in many cases we can hold to be unassailable, that is, certain, not uncertain. Another factor is alienation. Alienation is actually a psychological term, but it it's a word that we all know, we all understand very deeply, of being not connected to others or ideas in a very profound way. The pursuit of religion, spiritual seeking, and embracing conspiracy theories even may also be a response to alienation, to always feeling separate, isolated, not understood, or not appreciated for whom we are. This often arises from a feeling that our parents or other caregivers didn't get us. They didn't understand us, and they rejected us for being ourselves. That has a profound impact on a child. And when they grow up, we often don't remember having that feeling of alienation, the feeling that we were aliens in our household or in our community, in our neighborhood, that we were always rejected. This sense of being rejected, of being alienated, is closely related to shame. Receiving the message, I am bad, or you are bad, is the way it's said to us. I am bad, I'm unlovable, unworthy of love and attention. As children, we may have been under a great deal of pressure to conform. That is, who we were was unacceptable. We were supposed to be a certain way, and it just wasn't us, and it didn't work for us. So we may have learned to silently or perhaps openly rebel against authority, rebel against those people in our lives who were telling us how we were supposed to be, how we had to be. And if we weren't going to be that way, we were going to suffer dearly for it, and did. Alienation leaves the need to belong unfulfilled. It leads to seeking an alternative group and belief system, and may make us distrustful of any and all authority, even science, even things that make sense. We just can't connect with it. It doesn't serve us. It tells us to be a way we are not. And we feel deeply and profoundly alienated. It's a very, very common motivator. Let's move on to the notion of perfection. In pursuit of religion, spiritual seeking, and embracing conspiracy theories may stem, pardon me, I'm going to take a drink of water. It may stem from a need for perfection, which likely came from our parents telling us to strive for perfection. It may have also come just from a way of dealing with uncertainty. Perfection is certain. Less than perfection is uncertain. It's not perfect. Doing one's best may not have been good enough as we grew up. If what we did wasn't perfect, wasn't good enough, fell short of expectations, other people's expectations, which then became our own expectations, or if what we did was insufficient, then we learned to strive for perfection to compensate for our perceived inadequacies. No matter whether this was fair or unfair, realistic or unrealistic, if the message we got was that it wasn't good enough when we did our best, then that we develop a certain desperation for perfection so that we get accepted, so that we get included, so we're not alienated anymore. Striving for perfection leads to idealism, the demand that anything and everything in our world be perfect. Else we reject it or are rejected ourselves, right? the demand that everything in our world be perfect, or we just throw it out. I know many people in the political sphere who are like that. They have litmus tests. They have measures of anything and everything, judging others and everything that goes on, all policies, political things, everything, according to personal sets of standards. And they reject anyone and anything, including sometimes even themselves, when that doesn't measure up. Idealists do not allow for middle ground, for compromise, or for nuanced consideration of differences of opinion. Everyone and everything has to be perfect and true. There's security when they find that, but usually they can't own it because the world isn't perfect. And, we saw that a lot in some of our political campaigns, where those people are going like, well, that person, that politician, they said many good things, but there was this that they said or did. And so they're just not good enough. They're just not perfect enough for me. And so there's this intense criticism and judgment that gets thrown in that leads and reinforces the notion that things should be perfect and they should only accept what is actually perfect and true. All right, let's get down to talking about seeking, because the behaviors we're talking about are, in fact, seeking something. Striving for perfection leads to seeking absolute truth and higher knowledge. You see, the pattern here starts to put together. When we put together all of those considerations, dealing with uncertainty, or whatever fears we have for our existence, alienation, which is a very big one, very common one, very powerful force, the need for perfection, for idealism. Two things are very similar. This leads to seeking truth, absolute truth, and higher knowledge. And where do we find that? Well, we find that in most religions and in many situations where there are supposedly enlightened masters who expound basically unverifiable information about the universe, how it works, and who claim, at least initially unverifiable, and who claim infallible knowledge of the meaning and purpose of life. Such seekers surrender their autonomy and their judgment, submitting to the whim of their master, who, rather than being enlightened, may simply be extremely narcissistic. This is a very common and unfortunate situation. Now, if you're lucky enough to find a master who really does understand how the universe works, then what you're given, what you learn, and the techniques that you're given to grow may bring you confirmation that you can gain that. And that's, I think, certainly true from my experience with Maharshi's Transcendental Meditation and TM City's program. When I first heard the things that he was teaching, being a scientist, I was very skeptical. I was very skeptical. But you know what they say, the harder they come, the harder they fall. As I gained experience, I was able to confirm that what Maharshi was saying was true, and gained confidence that even if I could not confirm some of the things that he said, okay, most of the things that he said, I had good reason to believe that they probably were true, because other things that he had said that I had experienced were very much true. And I was lucky enough that from my very first moment of instruction in the Transcendental Meditation program, I basically got the kind of confirmation that I seriously doubted I would receive. And it's because of the doubt and the fact that the doubt was satisfied that, I went, yeah, this is real. This is it. He really knows what he's talking about. I want to move on to another area that's just really, really fascinating. I'm just trying to fix something here on my notes. There. We call the rules that we internalize from our experience in life. particularly as children as we grow up, but even as adults. We learn certain rules that help us navigate life and all its ambiguities. We can call those rules memes, M-E-M-E, plural is with an S on the end, memes. Memes act like computer subroutines, in a computer program, a computer operating system. They're little programs that are used when needed. We enter a certain situation, and the memes tell us how we're supposed to behave, how we're supposed to deal with things. We meet somebody new. We have rules about how we greet people. We have certain expectations about how people are supposed to function and how we're supposed to function. And these are all memes. They tell us how to act and how things should be. However, they can also limit our responses to situations, to things that come up in our life, and certainly block our creativity. I'm going to just name a couple of memes that govern our seeking behavior. One of the fundamental ones is nature is hierarchical, or nature exists in layers, or life or the universe exists in layers. We have a big cosmic level, we have the solar system, we have the earth system, we have our physical system, a body. The body is composed of tissues, the tissues of cells. The cells are composed of subcellular elements, and ultimately we get down to atoms like that. So there's a hierarchy in nature. Now there's a kind of corollary that goes along with that, is that the more subtle levels or the more powerful levels control the grosser levels. And so there's a succession of control. Now, out of that comes some social policies that are very widely believed. One is that those who are successful should lead, and those who are less successful should follow. Those who are successful are believed to be endowed with certain abilities, and if we don't have those abilities and we're not successful, then we should follow along and do what the other people tell us to do. Another meme is that everything, excuse me, everything has a purpose. It's all good. How many times have you heard that expression? It's all good. I find that very scary, actually. It's a rationalization. Yes, everything has a purpose. And yes, it is good. It's not false. But if we just dismiss everything that happens to us, then we don't learn anything. We don't grow. We don't develop the skills to be able to navigate life. It's all good. I just let it go. I'm uninvolved. And it's that lack of involvement that prevents one from growing. So we have to be very careful about that meme. We have to be careful about all the memes, actually. Another meme is that everyone should be self-sufficient and always do their best. In other words, we're responsible for our own lives, and we shouldn't expect, nor should we expect to have to give help to those who are less capable. What that produces is a very unchristian situation where, the beggar on the street deserves to be a beggar on the street. And we might give them something, we might not, but, we don't really need to do anything to improve their lot, even though the forces that put them as beggars on the street may have been completely beyond their control. We deny that with our meme that says everyone should be self-sufficient, and how you wind up is your business. And so we have this American dream, this American myth. We've had it since the 1800s, I think, maybe even earlier. That and it's actually part of it's funnily enough, it's part of a Christian ethic that you should not look for charity, not even accept charity. And we certainly know lots of examples of that. We should just be self-sufficient. We should take care of ourselves. So when we put all of this together, we can see that it produces a seeker of an alternative reality, right? Because the waking state reality, or our waking state means our normal day-to-day experience, is that here's the world and we have to deal with it. And, we normally in that world, we don't see that, that there's a divine plan, a spiritual purpose, and that we have a dharma, all of those things. We normally don't see that, but a seeker looks for an alternative reality and may reject a lot of conventional facts and wisdom, and even to a point of rejecting logic and science in favor of belonging to an alternative group with alternative beliefs and possibly an infallible leader imbued with purportedly divine status, plus a tendency to embrace they're out to get us or deceive us. Conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories are a big area. They kind of, you can think of them in two ways. There are those that they're out to get us, right? They're trying to stack the system against us, make us miserable, keep us from succeeding, cause us all kinds of problems. The other are often things that are practically irrelevant to our life, but they give us a sense of knowing something that nobody else knows or really believes. Aliens, for instance, in the Roswell, conspiracy, right? That the government is trying to keep us from knowing that there are aliens, that they have actually recovered bodies of aliens. Sometimes this conspiracy even says that they have captured living aliens and keeping them, hidden away from us because we can't deal with it. But believing in that is empowering to us in a certain way. It puts us in a class, a special group of those who know more than other people know. And so it gives us a sense of empowerment and a sense of security in that way. Seekers are often unhappy because unless the seeker's search is fulfilled, or at least partially fulfilled in ways that are convincing, doesn't happen very often, they feel frustrated. Seekers often suffer from chronic frustration, disappointment, unhappiness, and sometimes they even get disillusioned because fulfillment of their quest nearly always escapes their grasp. And they tend to blame others for that situation. They blame others for their failure to fulfill their mission, generally viewing themselves as the underdog and the victim. In their despair, they may play the role of martyr. On the other hand, some seekers, through learning and service, may achieve status within the group. Pardon me, I'm going to need another drink of water here. I think my problem is that I spend most of my day in silence. I hardly ever talk to anybody. My voice is not getting exercised. Anyway, some seekers through learning and service may achieve status within their adopted group and find privilege in their rank, which they can then exploit for various rewards, such as praise, power, even financial gain. And of course, the best one of all, closer contact with the leader. So they fulfill that need for identification, that need for feeling, I really have arrived. So that's what I want to say about seeking, that the motivations, the needs that we fulfill in seeking spiritual progress and religious experience are actually the same needs. The need for inclusion, the need for perfection, the need for idealism, for things to be pure and true. All of these bring us as seekers to adopt or join groups, sometimes cults, movements, religious organizations, and to believe things that other people do not find credible. Occasionally, seekers find valid knowledge. Unfortunately, a lot of times they don't, or they simply fall into the misery of not really getting what they were promised or what they promised themselves. And that makes them very unhappy. So what we want to do is find a way of being valid in our experience, that we're not grasping for the unattainable, but are sincere in our understanding of what's going on. It is obviously no accident that Maharishi presented the knowledge of Vedic science in the language of modern science, because it is understandable. It is a science. It's a systematic body of knowledge that is verifiable, testable. And so it makes us comfortable in seeking to understand and to have the experience of an alternative reality. But it takes time. It takes a lot of practice for most people. And it takes staying in a balanced state. And that's really the key thing. So tonight in our group clearing session, which we're about to undertake, we're going to try to clear away some of the disturbed energy, distorted energy, tangled energy that may make us uncomfortable, so that our seeking and our path become easy and clear and natural. So I'll take any questions. Let's see, what do I need to do? I think we do. I'm going to let everybody have the opportunity to talk. For some reason, I have to do this one at a time. I haven't figured that one out yet. So if anybody has anything they want to ask or share, I appreciate that coming up now. That would be really great. Should ask who is, because I can't remember the phone numbers, who is phone number 604-428-4423? Who is that, please?
Hi, this is Don.
Oh, it's Don. Yes, of course. That's who you are. Very good. And welcome, as always.
There, thank you.
So does anybody have anything they want to ask or share?
I'm fine.
Everybody is content. Very good. So